Britt Merrick, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Great audio too, by the way.
Nice.
Good acoustics in there.
I'm super intrigued by what's behind Britt. All of the
Scott,
books and
identify
the
them.
albums.
Identify those three albums by their image.
Put them
Scott.
on. Put them on my big screen. Can you do that, or do I do that?
Britt has to talk in order for it to pop up on our screen.
Yeah. What are those three albums there, Scott? You'll know all those.
Oh my God, this is so wrong. One looks like a Grateful, like a Jerry Garcia. Is that Jerry Garcia?
Yeah, it's a Jerry Garcia live album.
And then that one is, well, I mean, it says who it is, right? Is that Merle Haggard?
Yeah, dude.
Hell yes. And Jimmy.
Merle's my man.
I love Merle Haggard.
Dude. Merle's
three
live.
for three.
What
three
is
for
it?
Three, Scott.
What is like Ogoskokie? What's that song? Like the
Okie from Muskogee.
Yeah, Okie from Muskogee. All right. I apologize for not getting it. Britt, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, Scott. Right on, guys. Thanks for having me.
Huge congratulations, Britt. Very well deserved.
Oh, thanks, man. I don't know about deserved, but I'm so stoked. Yeah, I'm grateful.
Well, Scott was just saying that. Well, you tell him, Scott. It was the first time.
Yeah. So
Stab in the Dark.
First of all, you well deserved, and yeah, congratulations. The my vibe on the last episode was it was never has it been so clear that the winning board was just faster, smoother, held its rail through the entire turns that Jack was doing, and then immediately had speed. It looked like a magic carpet. You know, it was one of those boards where, of course, me being a board freak, I was like, oh my God, I would like to get one of those, you know, yeah. Although I know I couldn't ride it. Anyway, the board looked great. What were your thoughts on when you watched the footage of Jack on the board? Did you have the sense that, oh man, this thing looks sparky?
Yeah, you know, in the last one, in the final I did, in the one before, I don't know if Stab was just sandbagging or what, but he looked pretty bad on it in the episode before. But his narrative was like, he didn't like it to start with, and then he liked it later on. So maybe they were just trying to match the narrative and showing the bad waves. I'm sure he got bad waves on every board. I'm sure there was a bit of a learning curve, but it was kind of a shocker in that third episode. Those first few waves, like he fell a bunch of waves in a row, and I was like, oh man, it doesn't look good. And then I was actually surprised that it went on. But then in the last episode, yeah, I think those first few little waves that they showed him on when they were showing all four boards, it looked like it was clicking. It looked pretty good.
I felt like the other boards, not all of them, but some of them, it looks like he's kind of stymied by some of the boards. Like I think of Jack, we know he's a wizard, right? Yeah, and it's like his wand just didn't have the magic coming out of it. And then when in the final episode, certainly once he got on the CI, it was like the wand had that zap, and he'd go do one of those big front side gouges, and the board actually, it was a bigger gouge than he expected. And he was kind of like looking back at the turn going, oh, I guess I can apply my full magic to this board. And then the next wave, he does another one. And those big front side hooks were like something that we did not see on any other board, and that he felt like he could add more muscle to, and the board will actually level up to his level of wizardry, you know?
Yeah, it looked like he could push it, but you know, in the final four, they all looked pretty good. I mean, he was ripping on all of them. At that point, I think all the boards are great, you know, and any one of them could have won. But yeah, I think he looked good on all of them. It could have gone any way, really.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, Britt. I mean, we're dealing with, you know, the top shapers in the world, at least for high performance shortboards. And, you know, at some point you're kind of, you know, just grasping at straws because he's ripping on everything. And a lot of it could just be to do with the waves that he caught, or how he's feeling, or, you know, did he get enough coffee that morning? Who knows, you know, like what makes the difference between, especially the last two boards, which he was kind of saying, well, it's kind of a toss up. I don't know, you know, and then he picked one. How do you find out about being the winning shaper? What was that like?
I didn't find out until the event down in Encinitas at the La Paloma Theater. So, you know, there were rumors flying around. Everyone hears rumors, and you can't believe what you hear, probably, especially around Stab stuff. So I was hoping, I was kind of excited.
Yeah.
But it wasn't sure. And so found out live at the moment, which was really, really fun. Man,
Yeah.
That image that they got of you that they posted on the article where it's like in the moment is
Yeah.
so epic. You look so psyched.
I was pretty psyched, man.
Um,
I was pretty stoked. It was funny because he was going back and forth between my board and the Biolis, and Biolis was sitting just to my right, a few seats away. And so that was a pretty like intense moment when Jack was like, this one, that one, this one. I'm trying not to look at Biolis. I'm like,
does Matt Biolis's recent makeover make you want to update and spruce up your look, Britt?
ooh, probably the opposite.
I'm thinking you can add some salt and pepper. You can like dye the beard, maybe hip frames, tinted lenses. No,
Man, I'm pretty happy with my grungy country look.
okay, fair enough. In regard to the fine kind of detailed differences between those boards, would you be able to pick out whose board is whose blindly like Jack did in episode 1?
I'd be able to pick every single board.
No way.
For sure.
Wow.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's really not hard. I mean, all the guys have their little nuances, their little idiosyncrasies, the way they finish the nose, the feel on the rail, the way they finish the tail, even some of the glass job stuff. Like if you're around the world tour a bit and you see those boards on the regular, it's really not hard. I'm surprised when the guys don't get more of them.
Wow. Okay, that blows my mind.
Yeah. No, it's real. I think, David, if you like just went to a couple contests and you know went in the locker room and looked at all those boards a few times, you'd see like, oh, okay, this nose is like that and this tail's like that. And I think you'd be able to pick them all out too.
I guess that's where I was confused by, was that you'd have that much exposure to to 14 different boards, you know, but you're right. The world tour is where you would do it.
Yeah. All those guys are looking at each other's boards all the time. For sure.
That makes sense.
Everybody knows.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So
go ahead.
Tell us about the winning board. What board was it? What's the model? And tell us about the design.
Yeah. So for the last year, I've been working with Parker Coffin on that one, and he'd been riding the Too Happy and just really wanted to sort of elevate it. You know, the Happy's kind of like an every guy short board, the Too Happy is. And so Parker was looking to push the performance a bit. And what he was talking about were quicker transitions off the bottom, up the face, and then to your, heel side out of the hook like that, and tight pockety cuppy waves. So it was really an issue of creating a fresh bend in the rocker. So the Too Happy is pretty similar to a lot of CIs in that between your feet, it's got a relative straight spot in the rocker, which we kind of call the engine of the board. And then the rocker breaks around where the bump in the outline is. The rocker breaks at that same place. I think the ultimate sort of expression of that for CI is the OG Flyer. It's got that 3-stage rocker, like a really clear entry, engine through the middle, and then good break at the hip. That's a pretty typical CI thing. Some of our boards have more of a continuous curve, like the Proton was more of a continuous curve. So with this one, we're going more for a continuous curve. And we kind of took out that flat spot and made that whole area bend between your feet. Because Parker really wanted to feel like he was pivoting from, from the middle of the board right there. So we just created a new rocker curve, really bendy between the feet, but a long, slow curve out the back that I think lends itself to projection. So you've got like immediate pivot, and swivel from the hips and your feet, and then projection out of the back. And then also it's got pretty low concave for a modern short board. And the idea of that is just sitting in the water in a connected feeling. For normal guys like us, we probably want a little more concave and a little more of that, like on top of the water, get up and go feeling. But these guys are surfing good waves quite a bit where you don't need so much of that. You just need to harness the power more. So when a board sits in the water and has that more connected feel, lends itself to more high performance. We added curve to the outline. So really the goal was like, this is the most high performance board that I know how to make. And Parker was really helpful in that. And we have a good working relationship. He pushes me a lot. And you should see this guy, dude. He'll get a batch of boards, go ride it for a while. And then he comes back into my shaping room with all the boards. and with a binder full of notes on every single board. He's got drawings of the rockers. He's got drawings of the rail shape at different points of the board. He's got just pages and pages of notes on every single board. And then he's got footage, he's got clips on his computer that match all that. So he'll grab a board and put on my rack and he'll go, here's what I was feeling on this one. And he'll open up his notes and he'll go, gosh, I think the rail right in front of the fins is like this, but maybe we could do this and that would create that. Let me show you what I mean. And then he'll put a clip on and he'll show me what he means. And it's just been pretty cool working with him. He's a really, really sort of board savvy kid. So that was our project together.
Wow, that's really insightful and makes me want to interview Parker. Sounds like
You should.
he's looking for a job when he gets out of the tour or whatever. He might be our next shaper.
He's got one, man. He's got one for sure.
Let me ask you this, Britt. How does stab in the dark, like for instance, I watched the event, of course, and I see Jack absolutely killing it, and I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I would like to surf like that. I would like that board, but of course, I'm a middle-aged guy. I'm actually probably older than middle-aged. How does stab in the dark translate for somebody like me? Like, does that work for you guys? Like I can't ride 26 liters of volume. Like, if I come to you, or you're like, dude, sorry, that's like, like basically I would come to you, Britt, and I'd go, I'd like a board like that, but I'm 56 years old. What do you say?
Well, I'll kind of address the first part. When you're doing the super high performance stuff, it really bleeds into everything else that you're doing, because that's where you learn about all the nuances that really, really make a good board. That's where you learn about how the tuck, coming from just in front of the fins through the area of the fins is the most efficient and has the most hold. That's where you learn a lot about fin placement and all those nuances, concaves, like all the stuff that I've been learning in that board, all of that translates to other boards. So I feel like from working on this board for the last year with Parker, all my other boards for team and normal people have gotten better because I've learned a bunch of nuances, changed the ways that I approach the tuck and the rails, and even the way that I pull my screen, the direction, and a bunch of different things. So there's a trickle down effect. It's kind of like, if a car company is working on a Formula One car, they're going to learn things there that are going to trickle down to production cars eventually. The second part of your question is, if you came to me and you're like, Britt, I want this board exactly, what would you do for me? I think a lot of that is a function of rocker. And that's a super, super highly rockered board. And so that kind of board requires a lot of interaction to keep going, right? And I think what guys like you and I want is we want to stand up on a board and just feel some immediate, like, get up and go and positivity. And then we want to be able to redirect when we're ready. We're not ready for a little bit. We stand up, we're like getting adjusted, and oh man, my foot's stuck. I moved my foot back and oh, my back hurts. Okay, now I'm ready to do a little turn.
Yeah.
So, that kind of board like the CI Pro requires a bit more like intermediate or immediate reaction. So what I would do for someone like you is I would just lay that rocker down a bit, because I believe that a good rocker curve is a good rocker curve, period. Right? A good rocker curve is a function of how the water goes from the front of the board to the back of the board. It's an issue of hydrodynamics. So a good rocker curve is a good rocker curve is a good rocker curve. Now I can relax that curve a little bit, just take a little bit of the extreme out of it, settle it a bit, lift the concaves or increase the concaves a bit for a little more get up and go. I would widen the tail, because we don't really use the tail the same way that guys like that would. So there's little things like that where you could still fully have the essence of that board, but you could kind of everyman it a little bit.
Yeah. All right, cool.
How much does a win at Stab in the Dark affect your business?
I don't have empirical data on that. I mean, we had kind of, there were rumors that we had done well. And so we rallied, as a team to be ready to have that board available that night. So we, built out the web page on our website and got some of the assets ready. And I let the guys know, like, hey man, who knows, but if we win, just press go live and let's make it available. So, by the time we pressed go live, as soon as we heard we won, by the time we left, hundreds of people had gone to webpage on our website and viewed the board and
Wow.
at least learned about it, and we've sold some. And, I think the board will do well. It's available for custom order now. But for me, it's more of just a sort of just like a street cred vibe ethos thing. It just says, look, we're in that realm. We're working hard in that realm. We want to advance in the area of performance surfboards, and we're in the game. We're in the conversation. So I think it has a trickle down effect in that way. And then, like the last one, the Taj Stab in the Dark, we got second in that one. And that was with a Happy Every Day, which is a board we more recently launched. And that board's going bonkers. It's doing really,
Good.
really well. So it's gotta have an effect.
Jack famously rides a variety of surfboards rather than just working with one specific shaper for his career. Is that good or bad for his world title hopes?
Yeah, I've heard you guys talk about that quite a bit, and even name names like guys that worked with one shaper and the success they had, and then guys that bounced around and how they never maybe got a title and stuff like that. I'm not sure in the long term. I think it's been good for Jack. I think he's progressed a lot the last couple of years. And Sean Thompson used to say, don't ever ride for a board company. Be free to ride what's going to work best for you in the moment. And a lot of guys practice that. Like, I was at the pipe contest this year, and the overwhelming majority of people were on Tokoro's. Tokoro's like the board at Pipeline. There was no doubt about it. You go to Sunset and there are a whole lot of pangs, And so I think guys are already tuned into that to a certain degree, but I do really believe in the shaper surfer relationship. I think it's fruitful. I think it benefits both parties. I think you can move the ball down the field more quickly. And I think it does come down to maybe the surfer's aptitude. There's certain surfers that just don't want to work on boards. They just say, I don't care. Just give me what's going to work. And those might be guys who are just like, any board, any manufacturer, just give it to me and I'll go. Whereas someone that really wants to drill down on their equipment and, excuse me, advance, move the ball forward in the nuances, make it incrementally better, build that trust, they might be more inclined to work with one shaper.
The way that you described your rapport with Parker Coffin is a great example of how that relationship yields fruit. Like, because you guys are so comfortable with each other from working together for years, you're making these leaps and bounds with kind of subtle adjustments. But it seems like Jack has that relationship with Arakawa, but also maybe with Marcio, Zuby, and maybe with a couple of different guys. So yeah, I guess you're right. It's more about communication from the surfer than anything else. Are you going to be building boards for Jack henceforth?
He just ordered a batch for Australia. So that's cool. He's ridden a few of our boards over the last couple of years. I've made him quite a few, and it's cool that he ordered, a batch. He said, I want him exactly like that stab one. So just made him some last week, and they're in
That's
Australia
awesome.
now. Yeah. So he's got
Awesome.
those. We'll see how they go. I mean, Jack is one of my favorite surfers in the world. Watching Jack surf is just unreal. I love his approach. I love his vibe. I really, really enjoy Jack as a person. He's just like the most humble, down to earth, unassuming, sweet guy. He's that just kind of guy you want to like be in the presence of.
Yeah.
Not because he's like a big deal, but he's just got like a sweetness to him. So yeah, I hope he enjoys the boards.
He mentioned in the episode that he had ordered some boards and that he was going to use them at some CT spot in the future, and he was kind of cloudy about it and secretive a little bit. And I immediately went, you know what, he's going to ride those boards at J Bay. Obviously, it sounds like he's going to ride them, I'm guessing, at Margaret's. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on where those boards end up under his feet?
Yeah, I don't know. He requested him for Australia specifically. So I had, Bell's and Margaret's in mind. But if they're good boards, I'm sure he'll keep traveling with them and they'll, have some legs. We'll see where they end up. But yeah, I could see it being a good board at J Bay for sure.
I've got a question about the competition itself, Stab in the Dark. they've done a great job. We love what they're doing there. I think everybody in the surf culture appreciates what they're doing. And you may have heard us discuss maybe a new competitive format where what we have now, Britt, is we have you're a 2-time winner. I know Paizel's won at least twice, maybe more.
Twice.
And then I think has Matt won twice?
No.
How many 2-time winners are there? Do you know?
Just us and Paizel.
Okay. So I thought it would be really neat if we did a competition format, or Stab did, where they just take you and Paizel. They don't tell the surfer this. You guys make 6 boards each. And the surfer goes, he thinks that there's 12 different shapers involved, and he gets to go and pick them all out and do the whole thing. And at no point does he realize that it's just like a tournament of champions, so to speak. And, they're always looking for ways to evolve this and make it fun and different. And I thought that would be an interesting thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be super fun. I mean, I think the surfer would know right away. Like I said, they're pretty savvy. He would know, man, these are not 12 different boards. These are all, I think the surfer would go right away. Oh, these are Paizel's and Merrick's, but still that's fine. Like, I think that'd be fun. Yeah. We each have 2 wins. Let's do a showdown. Although I think we have a second, so maybe we edged him out a bit. I don't know.
Not to be
Who's
petty,
counting? Who's
Yeah.
counting?
Exactly.
Not me.
Well, how could they improve the concept for the shaper, in your opinion, Britt? I'm sure you've got ideas.
Oh, improve the concept for the shaper. Gosh, man, I'm not sure, honestly. I think it's a cool format. I think it's a cool idea. I don't know how they can make it better for us. When I always get nervous when the request for the boards comes in, I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is, pressure. And then I make the boards and I'm stressing while I'm doing it. And then I just try to forget about it because it takes Stabs so long to complete the project. I mean, I shaped those boards in October, right? And here we are in March talking about it. So I've just got to shape them and forget about it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it's done, the request comes in for more. I don't know how they can make it better for us.
Good.
David and I have often talked about, who should be the next surfer. Like what's and it comes down to really a guy that can communicate effectively. And of course, David and I are like, the best communicator in our opinion. One of them is Kelly. How great would it be if Kelly was one of the guys the next guy that Stab chose? Don't you think he would be a fabulous communicator of what he's feeling under his feet?
Yeah, nobody in the world is better with surfboards than Kelly for sure. But he owns a surfboard company, so I don't think they'd go for it.
That's what makes it so great. I mean, that's what validates the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like now we're truly being objective here.
Well, along those lines, how would you feel if Parker got the invite? It sounds like he'd be a phenomenal candidate.
Oh gosh, Parker would be really good. Oh, man, I mean, it sucks. Like, Dane did it twice. Jordy did it when he was riding for us. And so you might remember, like when Dane did it, I just shaped him a Bonzer,
Yeah, I do.
just knowing that it wasn't going to win, not to be disparaging of Bonzers, they're amazing, but just knowing in that realm and who Dane was, because if it's your surfer, you can't win. If he chooses your board, everyone's like, well, of course he chose your board. You work with him all the time. If he doesn't choose your board, they're like, oh man, you really suck. He doesn't actually like your board. So when it's your surfer, you can't win. So I hope it's never our surfer again. But yeah, Parker would be a good one. Gosh darn it.
It's
Which like Kelly would be so great, right? Because Kelly owns a surfboard. He can't win on his boards.
Yeah. In episode 4, Britt, they filmed your interview. Was that in your garage?
Yes.
You need to update your quiver. You got some beaters in there and like super chippy boards that I'm like, I don't know if Britt's riding those things.
No, man. So those are ones I'm holding on to. Those were like some of the last ones my dad made me and stuff like that, and special boards and magic boards. They're toward the back of the garage. So the front is the current quiver. So that was the back corner. And then
What do you ride, Britt? What's your go-to board?
I ride 6.2s generally, 39 to 40 liters. I'm 6'6" and 2,000 pounds or something. So
pure elk meat.
Yeah, pure elk meat muscle. I ride the Too Happy is my short board, and then my more everyday short board is a Happy Everyday, and then I ride the twin pin a lot. The last few years has been a real love affair with twin fins. Probably 90% of the time of the last, actually probably 90% of the time in the last 4 years, I've been on twin fins. Mostly the
That's
twin
awesome.
pin. Yeah.
Did you notice both in the audio for the series and in the text that they're referring to the Channel Islands logo as a 3 chevron logo rather than 3 hex?
Did what? Where's that come from?
Do you want to tell them or should I?
Dude, you tell him, man.
Okay, I will. The first time it slipped through, I'm like, man, Ashton got it wrong. He doesn't know what a chevron is. Maybe he just misspoke, but now it's in text. And I'm like, no way. How are they getting away with this?
That was so
Yeah.
funny. I mean, it's been called a hex for thousands of years.
I mean, the chevron, there's a gas company. I see
Yeah.
that logo all the time.
Yeah.
That's a chevron. How do you not
Yeah.
know what a chevron is?
It was pretty classic, man.
All right, I'll tell him.
Okay,
All right, will do. Scott, do you have any more questions before we dispatch?
Just one quick kind of an operations question. When you build the board for these guys, did they, especially this episode, did they have you put the color on the nose, or do you ship them a clear board?
Yeah, the ask is to ship them clear boards with no designations or defining features at all. So there can't be any writing on it. There can't be like any proprietary carbon, any of that stuff. They want it to be as anonymous as possible. So they pick the colors. And man, I hated the color we got. That like forest green, that was just like the most bland. As soon as I saw those on episode 1, I was like, oh, we suck. We lost for sure. That was the worst color.
I realized I didn't hit one of my questions. Have you ever had fewer CT riders on the men's side than in 2022?
Yeah, last year.
Who do you got currently? Jackson Baker?
Jackson Baker, Nat Young, and Joao Chianca.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Way to bring it down, David. Why'd you have to ask that question?
What a jerk.
No, well, because there's a very specific reason why.
Okay.
How expand upon your mixed feelings for Devin Howard banging the mid-length drum. I feel like this win at Stab in the Dark is a hard pivot back into the Formula One style of board.
Oh man, I'm not taking that bait.
Come on, buddy.
Devin's my bro, dude.
I'm sure it's great for business.
Let me answer that. I'll answer that for
Oh
Britt.
shoot.
Here's
David,
the
I
deal.
can't believe you're serving that up, bro.
Here's the deal. Okay. Channel Islands caters to all surfers. All right. We have boards for the high performance guy. We have boards for Scott and David and Devin. We have boards for guys that want to cruise longboards. We're a surfboard company. We make it all, and we make it all excellent.
You going
That
for
was
looking for a
good.
job, Scott? Jeez
Yeah,
Louise.
Scott is hired. But no, I mean, I'll speak to that for a minute. Our goal is to make every surfer happy. So that can't just be a high tier performance thing, and it can't just be sort of a everyday thing. We really want to build boards for every single surfer. I mean, I believe that people experience moments of joy on surfboards that are life-changing. We can all remember like our first ride or our first barrel or first surf trip or first great turn, that moment that really hooked us and like redirected the course of our lives. And there's very few things in the world that can bring the sort of joy that surfing does. So to me, it's really meaningful to create the crafts on which that joy is experienced. People's lives are changed by surfing. So to put those surfboards under their feet is really meaningful. And I think it makes humanity better. I think surfing makes people better. I think the experience makes for a more beautiful world. So I want as many people as possible to surf and have good experiences surfing and to enjoy equipment. We believe in craftsmanship. I think that surfers should build surfboards. I don't think that it should be any other way. I think that vibes matter, that beauty matters. And so, we just want to, with our hands, make these things that bring real moments and lifetimes of joy to people. So that's broad, as Scott was saying. That's for a whole lot of different people. And, you know, as far as like the CT and that high performance realm, we've been a company in transition for a while. You know, when Burton bought us, my dad retired, and I was out of the scene at that point. I didn't shape a single surfboard. I did not touch a piece of foam for 10 years. So I was, you know, fully removed from that. My dad retires, and, you know, imagine being Channel Islands built on Al Merrick and figuring out how to carry on. That's a difficult transition. And then right about that same time, when I came back a few years after my dad retired, I came back is when Kelly left, you know, and then suddenly Kelly has his own surfboard company and Rob goes with him. And imagine being Channel Island Surfboards that to a large degree was built on Al Merrick and Kelly, and now they're both gone. So we've been a company in transition for a few years now. And so we're just, you know, kind of rebuilding. We're a team that's rebuilding, and we're rebuilding that part of the team. And as Scott said, we're trying to be super broad, deep and broad, and meet the needs of a lot of different surfers. So we're just working really hard at that. And, you know, we got some ways to go yet, but we're optimistic.
I heard you talking, it might've been in the Stab piece actually, about your love for shaping high performance surfboards, kind of saying that the bigger the board gets, you can kind of, there's a lot of accommodation for error or whatever, and they're just easier to shape. And so your love for shaping high performance boards. So that's what I was meaning to tee up with my question. I didn't mean to take a dig at you, Britt.
No, I didn't think you did, dude. We're so good. I love you, man. I know we're good. I didn't think it was a dig. I do, though. That's, you know, I shape all kinds of different boards. I spent so much time the last few years working on twin fins and alternate designs and stuff like that, but nothing keeps me up or wakes me up in the middle of the night like a high performance shortboard.
Yeah.
When I think, when I dream, when I ponder, when I'm angsty, it's about rockers on high performance shortboards. And that's the hardest thing to do by far. That's the most difficult thing to do, because those are the athletes that are the most demanding. And because the volumes are so small, the consequences are so great. You know,
Yeah.
a 16th of an inch on a fin, a half a degree of splay on the fin, the tiniest bit of tuck here, the tiniest bit of flip out the tail. The consequences are so great because the volumes are so low and the demand for performance is so high. So that's the hardest thing to do. And as a craftsman, that's what excites me most. And that's what gets me in there every single day, is doing the hardest thing.
Well, I really do think I've said this to you last time we talked, Parker Coffin is your hidden little secret ingredient, because he is the most underrated surfer in the world. And I think Snapped 4 obviously shined a light on him to show a lot of his talent, but even still, he flies under the radar. And so to hear that he's actually able to communicate as well as surf as incredibly as he does, I think is that's huge.
Yeah. He's phenomenal. I do think he's underrated. If you just watch him surf, you're like, it's insane. He's as good as anybody. He's unreal.
His speed, his agility, like, it's crazy. And then also congrats on Lakey's return to form too on the women's side.
Yeah, thanks. So stoked for Lakes, man. She's one of my favorite people in the world. And, you know, she had a rough couple years, some seconds, and then that back injury, and she's feeling really good. I think she's surfing better than ever. She's been working on boards over the last year with me, and the boards seem better than ever. And she's on fire. She's hungry for it.
Who is she? What board was she riding in Portugal? What model?
She rides a variation on the Rook, and she's
okay.
also been riding the CI Pro. But she's been, you know, we just been sort of tweaking her Rooks for years. For Lakey, she really wants that super consistent feel. So I try to get her off that and give her new stuff all the time, but she's addicted to that thing.
Yeah. Final question before we leave you. Pick a side, Joel Tudor or the WSL?
Oh, dude.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer.
I'll answer for him. No.
I'm gonna make Scott answer.
My PR guy. Go, Scott. Go.
I'm just kidding. I think we're going to be talking about that here in a minute, and I don't want to bore you with it. But I do want to say this. Thanks for being on the show, Britt, and blessings to you and the CI crew. And I'm going to go download that Merle Haggard album.
Oh, dude, that's a good one. The first track, dude, the first track.
All right, buddy.
Hey, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. Really appreciate both you guys. I love listening to you guys talk about surfing and surfboards. I appreciate your knowledge base, and you guys have been kind to me and Channel Island. So thanks so much.
Love you guys. Wish nothing but the best.
Yeah. Thanks,
All
brothers.
right. Thanks,
All right,
Britt.
talk soon.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
All right.